All right, welcome back to Dilemma's Concepts. What we're looking at today is adding and subtracting integers, and we're looking at some special cases as well. All right, so one of the things that we want to pay attention to is when we have two negatives, when we have a negative and a positive beside each other with nothing between it, then we would actually be thinking of the signs being multiplied technically. All right, so basically a plus and a minus beside each other with nothing between it, the result of that will be a negative still, all right, or a minus if you want to say. And when we have like a minus and a plus beside each other with nothing between them, we will still end up with a minus at the end. The idea is that when we have two different signs, we'll end up with a negative. All right, so we're talking about this. All right, so let me just let this be clearly stated. We're referring to an idea like this. Let us say we see a 5 plus and then there is a negative 1 at the back. What is that result? We're suggesting that when we have these two signs beside each other, all right, so I'm just putting the negative in a bracket, but if I should remove it so you could see clearly like that, what we're saying is when you have these two signs beside each other, then what we want to do is to make sure that we work it with just one sign. We're going to be looking at how do we navigate those. So what I'm saying is if you see a negative and a positive, at the end of the day, the thing really will just be that 5 minus 1, because the negative sign will ring. So as long as we have a case like this where we have negative and a positive, we're going to end up with a negative sign overall. But in the case where we have like a double negative or a double positive like these two cases here, it's always going to be a plus. So technically when we have different signs, we're going to end up with a negative sign here, and when we have the same sign, we're going to end up with a positive. All right, so we're going to have to make sure that we understand what we're suggesting here. All right, so let's look on some cases and then use those cases to help us to push forward. All right, let's look at this. Case number 1, we were looking at 3 minus negative 6. So the negative 6 could have been placed in a bracket there for you to see that that number is negative. All right, so technically what we're suggesting is if you look carefully, there's nothing between these two signs here. So what's going to happen is that these two signs, the rules for multiplication will work itself out here. So technically a negative and a negative being multiplied would give a plus. So then if we should rewrite this, you're having 3 plus 6 and that will give a 9. So this is one of those special cases that I'm referring to, right? One of those special cases that we're referring to. All right, let's continue here. We're looking at negative 3. So I put that negative 3 in a bracket so you could see it's a negative number around there. But let me just take this negative sign off for you to see what's going on here. All right, so what are we looking at? Technically, we're looking at 4 plus negative 3. Now let's look. This negative and positive, there is nothing between them. And we're suggesting that when you have a positive and a negative, it was always going to be a negative at the end. So therefore, what we're looking at here is a 4. Let's rewrite this. It really means 4 minus 3. And then that is going to give us positive 1. Regular 4 minus 3, 1. All right, let's continue this one. 5 minus positive 6. Same thing. There's a negative and a positive here. So let me remove this bracket from the positive sign so you could see what we're suggesting is there are two signs here exposed. There's nothing between the signs. Look, there is nothing between the signs. So we're going to have to work with one sign. When we have a negative and a positive, or a positive and a negative, it's going to end up to be a negative in the end. So if we should rewrite this, we're getting 5 minus 6. And if you think about this, 5 minus 6, based on what we did in the previous video, and 5 minus 6 is definitely negative 1. One way you could look at this is that you have $5 and you end up to borrow 6. So technically you're actually in a -1 state, right? All right, -1. Or you could rewrite this as well. This could be rewritten as -6 +5. And then you could think about it like this: I borrow $6 and I pay back 5. I'm still indebted by 1, right? So that is how we could look at those. And these are just some special cases in terms of adding and subtracting negative numbers. I hope that you understand what's going on. See you later.